are watching Political Conversations.
Good evening, and you are watching Political Conversations on Freedom Square TV. And of course, we are reaching you from our Enugu studios. Enugu remains the capital of Southeast Nigeria and is also known as the Cold City State. This is a platform where ideas meet accountability. Today's discussion is timely and sensitive. And what is it? P2B, electoral reforms, and National Assembly protests. Nigeria's democracy has entered a critical phase since the 2023 general elections. Public trust in the electoral process has continued to decline, fueled by allegations of vote buying, result manipulation, delayed transmission of results, and institutional weaknesses. One of the strongest voices calling for comprehensive electoral reform has been P2B, former governor of Anambra State, and the 2023 presidential candidate of the Labour Party. Obi and his supporters argue that Nigeria cannot move forward economically, politically, or socially without fixing its electoral foundation. This agitation has gone beyond press statements. Across the country, protests have been staged at the National Assembly demanding urgent amendment of the Electoral Act, full electronic transmission of results, punishment of electoral offenders, independence of the INEC, protection of the will of voters. At the center of the controversy is the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which has faced delays at the National Assembly despite public pressure. Critics believe and argue that these delays may be politically motivated, while lawmakers insist they are exercising due diligence. As of today, 10 February 2026, protests are ongoing. Yesterday, P2B led what you call Occupied National Assembly group, and they protested. And today, Rotimi Amechi, Asa Yusuf, and Alent Rufai were all present at the National Assembly, demanding that what was done last Wednesday be overturned. And even Omoleye Showore, a one-time Minister of Sports, Rotimi Amechi, the situation raises fundamental questions. Is Nigeria's political class genuinely committed to electoral reforms, or are they playing to the gallery? Are protests legitimate tools for democratic pressure? Does P2B represent a broader reform movement or a political tendency? Can electoral reforms truly change Nigeria's political culture? These are the issues this edition of Political Conversations seeks to unpack. To help us do the analysis, to help us analyze this, I've been joined by Emeka Udom, public affairs analyst and member of the Guild of Public Affairs Analysts of Nigeria, Enugu chapter. He's also a doctoral research fellow, Institute for Peace, Conflict and Development Studies, Enugu State University of Science and Technology, Enugu. Emeka, good evening.
Good evening, Chief.
It's good to have you once more.
Yeah, I'm always delighted to join you on this program.
Yes, of course, you know that in the past 2 days, yesterday and today, there have been massive protests over what was termed the denial of the electronic transmission of votes by the Senate. But before we go into the state or the status of that protest, one question is ringing on my bell. Is Nigeria afraid of free and fair elections?
Well, thank you so much, Chief. That's a very important question. And I believe that Nigeria, and when we talk about Nigeria now, I refer to Nigerians, the people of Nigeria, the good people of Nigeria. They are not averse to free and fair election. As a matter of fact, most people desire elections to be free and fair, just like any other contest. You know, you should be free, you should be fair, you should be safe. And people of good conscience, should identify with it. And, wherever it goes, people should look back to say, I am satisfied, and they walk away. After all, we are told it's a game. But sometimes also we must recognize the fact that you know, human beings sometimes, nobody wants his powers to be eroded. The truth of the matter is that when you have a situation where elections are held, and maybe because the system has not reached the purification of the system is still not above average, and so that creates room for all kinds of nocturnal, tendencies. So those who benefit from that kind of system, obviously, will be averse to any reform that will ultimately, disempower them, from continue, or I mean, from continue on their on whatever thing they were doing. So that is why it looks as if some few people probably are what you may call acting anti-clockwise, But ultimately, the good people of Nigeria, just like men and women of conscience anywhere in the world, they are not averse to free and fair election. In fact, they desire and pray and look forward to a free and fair election.
Yes,
very strongly.
Yes, every right-thinking Nigerian, whether you're a Democrat, whether you're whatever you call yourself, will look forward to a free, fair, and credible elections, because that is the hallmark of democracy. But unfortunately, over the years, Nigerians have been subjected to what you call unfair contests, political manipulations, rigged elections, judicial interventions that seem to be worse than even the electoral frauds. But anyway, that's just by the way. The last 2 days, I witnessed massive protests. One yesterday was led by His Excellency Peter Obi, former governor of Anambra State and former 2023 Labour presidential candidate. And today, Rotimi Amechi, Aisha Yusuf, and others did so. And Senate did convene an emergency meeting today. Do you have an idea about the outcome of that session they had today?
Yes, the emergency meeting came today. As a matter of fact, when the announcement came that there will be an emergency sitting today, that also provided some kind of reprieve, because people knew that at least the Senate was responding to the yearnings and aspirations of many Nigerians. And so today, first thing that happened was that the Senate, passed both the e-transmission of results and the manual transmission of results together. Now, the implication of that is that, according to them, in a polling booth where network fails, the presiding officer can now resort to the manual collation of the form EC8A, and so they amended the clause 60 of the Electoral Act to reflect that. However, of course, that on itself, throws up another issue. INEC had already told us that, look, the Beavers is equipped with facilities that even if you are in a place where there's no network, just snap once we finish filling from EC8A and the necessary signatures are gotten, the presiding officer, the security person on board, the party agents, and everybody's signature is gotten, and it is displayed to the satisfaction of those who want to observe the result collation at the polling booth there. It is raised up and everybody agrees. Now, the presiding officer should snap the form, that result sheet, with the Beavers. Now, once it is snapped and uploaded, even if there's no network, you should not bother. Once you leave that vicinity, while on transit, wherever you are taking that Beavers to, possibly the World Collection Center, somewhere along the line, once it picks network, to just go. You may not even know that it's just like when you send text message on your phone and probably didn't deliver, and you put it in your pocket. As you're walking along, by the time you bring out your phone, you will discover that the text message has been delivered. So that is the way it's supposed to be. So that is the reason why that particular instance they are talking about, resorting to the manual collation. Well, let them still do the manual collation, but I'm happy that the electronic transmission of results has been captured. Again, also, At the time, at the point of harmonization of the electoral bill for both they say we shouldn't call them the lower house any longer, the Green Chamber,
the
the House of Representatives. So at the time they are reconciling with the Senate, some of these issues will come out. Then the second thing that the Senate did today also, they reconstituted the electoral bill. I mean the electoral act amendment committee. And so what they set up a committee, they call it a committee for harmonization, who will oversee the harmonization and return to the Senate so that they can now get the final approval. So in that committee, they appointed Senator Simon Lalong, former governor of Plateau State. They appointed Senator Ojus Okalo, former governor of Abia State, and Senator Mungono. So these are the three senators that are saddled with that responsibility. And so we look forward to what they are going to do. So these are the two principal things that the Senate did today. And for me, it's that may not be ultimately 100% of what Nigerians want, but the most important thing here is that it teaches us a lesson that in this country, when there are issues of total public dissatisfaction, the Nigerian people should not sit in silence. People should, rent their voices. People should, what do you call sorosoke? Speak up. We need to sorosoke in this, because one of the things that are making a lot of things happen, things go the way they are going in this country, because nobody seems to be saying anything. Everybody seems to be afraid. Now, I know probably we're still going to talk about it, but that brings me to the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 general elections. For him to have come out, this is a presidential candidate. People you may call, these are the elites. Before now, the argument has always been, look, when they ask you to come to the street to protest, don't come, because you ask them, where are their children? Where are their family members? Where are they themselves? So you can't be the one on the streets. Police will shoot you. They will throw tigers at you. You get injured. Hoodlums will attack you, but they will be in the comfort of their homes. Now we are seeing the principal characters themselves coming out in the street to protest. And so that tells you also that in that group today, nobody will come and tell you that the group, these are hoodlums that are miscreants that are protesting. So Nigerians should be able to speak up, because these people that are whether they are the senators, the executive, whoever they are our leaders, quite all right. But the position they occupy today is in public trust. The sovereignty remains with the people. And so if the custodians of the sovereignty, the original custodians of the sovereignty, says, no, this is what we want, they have no choice but to listen to us. But when, we all sit back at the comfort of our homes and probably speak only through the pages of social media, and not much will be achieved. So I'm happy that, the way this has happened. And so going forward, many other things that we also want in this country should follow suit.
Many other things we want in the country should follow suit. We led the group yesterday. A departure from his near passive attitude all over the years. He was at the forefront, and he has become a central voice in the electoral reform conversation. But today again, another presidential hopeful, Rotimi Amaechi, joined the foray. I don't know whether their calls are based on ideology, whether it's on experience, or are they just doing political grandstanding?
No, see, Chief, in answering that question, I'm going to go a little bit religious. There's a particular portion in the Bible, where Paul said, some preach the gospel out of envy, others preach out of strife, and yet others may preach out of hatred. However, whatever may be the case, the gospel is preached. So whether they are grandstanding, whether they want to show off, whether they want to, they want to increase the followership on their various social media pages, the most important thing is that there's a protest. And I can tell you, the participation of P2B yesterday would have boosted the confidence, and in fact, it would have drawn out. Remember also that just in front of us is a party primaries that are coming. Yeah. Now at the convention ground, at the congresses and at the convention ground, where these presidential candidates are going to be telling their party, faithfuls, what they will do for them and solicit for their votes, for the nomination votes. These are part of the things people are going to calculate. Say, look, this man was there. No presidential candidate wants to have his contemporary have any advantage over him. So I can tell you that perhaps if the Senate had not done what they did today, if this protest had allowed to proceed to next tomorrow, perhaps we would have also seen Atiku Abubakar hit the streets.
Why would he wait for others to appear before?
No, you see, well, of course, that could be an error, but the truth of the matter is that democracy on itself, the school of democracy is where people graduate and move from class 1 to class 2, class 2, class 3. And I can tell you that our democracy is improving and is progressing. Before now, apart from in 2014, where we had the former president Alhaji Muhammadu Buhari, of blessed memory. I know he's better known as General Muhammadu Buhari anyway. So at that time,
Even Tinubu?
yes,
At
that time he was known as GMB, General Muhammadu Buhari, and the current president now, they were all there, in the 2014, even in 2012, the subsidy protests and all the rest of them. So that is what we desire. Protest should not be left for students alone. Protest should not be left for civil society members alone. Protest should not be left for, those that can easily be described as miscreants alone. Responsible men and women, members of the upper class, the political class, they should be part of protest. Let us see how, they will we remember sometime in 2020, is it 2023 or 2027, we saw Ichibo Kadebo, who joined Buhari in a protest somewhere in Kano at that point in time. So we need to see more of that. And I can tell you, so if any in quotes big political figure refuses to do what others are doing, then when we are ready to vote, we begin to take count of those who identify with us when the times were critical. You remember that before now, one of the arguments that people have tabled against the former vice president Atiku Abubakar was that, immediately after every election, he runs away to Dubai. Then when it is 6 months to the next election, he comes back. That argument went on for a very long time, and he he took note of it. Today, since after the 2023 general elections, I can tell you that I don't think anybody will accuse him of running back to Dubai again. So that is where it is, and that's how democracy matures.
Okay, our lawmakers represent a critical sector of our democracy, and they've been entrusted with making laws that will guide good governance in the country. Unfortunately, so to speak, whether it is the Senate that is largely responsible for this legislative rascality, as they call it. We call it electoral. It's what they try to do with electoral criminality. But should our lawmakers be pressurized? Should they be pressured? Should they be challenged by public protesters before they do the right thing?
I'm going to look at this question from two perspectives. Now, the first perspective is that the answer is no. In fact, if you ask me, I would tell you that it's very unfortunate that this matter has been dragged to this point. It shouldn't get to this point. That also takes me to even the current Electoral Act that was signed into law in 2022. The former president wasn't going to sign it. If you say that he reluctantly signed that Electoral Act into law, you're right. He wasn't going to sign it. And so until the people began to mount pressure, the press, the civil society, the political parties, the opposition, the international community, everybody mounted pressure on him. So he eventually reluctantly signed. And after signing, the following day, he asked the Attorney General to go and contest a particular session in court. Of course, the court told him, you signed this into law, so you are not in a good place to challenge any part of it. So you now ask yourself, why should a sitting president be pressured or be cajoled? Or why would a sitting president be unwilling to sign an instrument into law that would further enhance the credibility of our election? This was a man himself who had said in the past that he himself was a victim of, discredited election. So now that he was in the saddle, one would have expected him to do everything possible to leave a legacy of free and fair election. But he came face to face with signing the instrument that can guarantee that. He became a bit cold in doing that. So that is a big paradox. The same way, those who are saddled with the responsibility to make laws for Nigeria, ordinarily they're under oath to enshrine and to foster good governance. What is good governance? Good governance, part of good governance is, doing the will of the people. The people say this is what we want, and you seem to be a clog in the wheel of progress. So that's another big paradox. Why should that happen? But that's on the one side. Then the other side is that realistically, it is politics. It's about interest. Who gets what and how he gets it. Now,
and when.
Now, these are members of the ruling party, the oligarchy. Because see, when you come to democracy, no matter how democratic you want to push it, there will always be an element of oligarchy at the center.
Yeah.
Now, that oligarchical caucus, they are members of the ruling party. And the fear is that electronic results, transmission of results electronically may pose a big challenge if there's any need to look at the results from different perspectives. And so is akin to a man using his pen to sign away his interest and his benefit. So you see, most people will drag in doing that. It will take an exceptional statesman to undertake that venture. And so that is why, to a reasonable extent too, when the caucus of the Senate is a bit reluctant in doing that, we probably will not hang them. Rather, we will impress it upon them to do the right thing. Because if you bring 100 people, quite frankly, maybe 99 will also drag their foot in doing that.
Okay. If you watched the pattern and the process of the protest of yesterday and today, would you rather think that the obedient movement, quote and unquote, is still the primary engine behind this protest? Or has it evolved into a broader societal campaign?
The obedient movement is still very strong. And when you look at the complexities of the obedient movements, these are young people. These are a new breed of politicians who have identified with the quest for a new Nigeria.
Yeah.
These are people who believe that a new Nigeria is possible. And so these are also people who are very active in the social media space. If you agree with me that this particular protest practically orchestrated and championed through social media. Now, the social media that was very Obi's participation yesterday was very viral, and that would have, quite frankly, boosted the confidence of many other people today. In fact, earlier today, people were saying, you saw what Showore was saying, Omiyole Showore was saying. He said people should come, opposition, no party, this and that. Everybody should come to Abuja at the Ego Square. Let them pass. That is social media playing a very vital role, and that is the main domain of obedience. However, we have also seen that even those who criticize the obedient movement in 2023, many of them are cashing in on the obedient movement. Many of them are trying to recreate a replica. So if you ask me, one of the things that even if he end up not being the president of Nigeria, you probably will not be able to, if you may not write a credible history of Nigerians' march to to credible democracy without mentioning his name from 2023 to wherever we are today. He may not become the president of Nigeria, but he has played a very important role. He has awakened the conscience of Nigerians. Many people see, the truth of the matter is that I was involved in 2023 advocacy for voters registration, and even in the election itself. I monitored the election. The truth of the matter is that Obi's entrance into the game, number one, altered the traditional two-horse race that we've had in Nigeria since 1999, till the return to democracy in 1999. That is number one. Number two, it's reawakened the interest and consciousness of the young people in this project called Nigeria. Remember that in the history of this country, we have never had it up to more than 80 million Nigerians registered in a presidential election, even though not all voted, but the fact that 80 million Nigerians and more showed interest to say we want to be part of this process, it simply means that the consciousness is growing.
Okay, the consciousness is growing, but I'm just a little bit worried. I'm worried about a few things, and those things may have to do with God's will Akpabio. That's one of the things that are worrying me. I accused him of manipulation, that he manipulated what they did, and he has faced some specific criticism, even from the protesters. How do you think this will affect his future political career?
Yes, if you look at the Senate president, you must look back and look at antecedents, how he came to the Senate. Remember, there's a narrative. I mean, there's a trajectory. These are records. We didn't put them there, and we're only pointing to them because we did it. Just like they say, the press doesn't create any event. They may celebrate it, but they don't create it. So if you create an event, they help you to celebrate it. Now, the truth is this. Akpabio, he still has that toga all over him that, he contested the 2023 presidential nominations.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, the electoral law says that, look, by the time you are going for the nomination for the presidential election, at the Senate level,
it has been closed.
It has been closed. Now we also the whole what you may call what fella will refer to as magic. And at the end of the day, he came back again. Not only himself and the former Senate president, Ahmed Lawal. So they found their way back to the Senate again. So that toga is there. Now that stigma doesn't go away very easily. And given the fact that yes, he's the Senate president. And that is why you see now that the fight to stop electronic video, a result transmission, is not just about this. Is about interest. It's about personal interest there too. And I'm afraid that the Senate president, his profile, except if after all of this, he does a lot of things, because since he came to power as the Senate president, there's been one controversy or the other. You have the controversy with Natasha. You have the controversy of this particular one now. You have a controversy of whatever the president says we will do, all of those things. Now, the good thing about it is that, like I said, there is a trajectory. Where he's sitting down today, we have heard people sat on that seat. We had the distinguished Senator Kenny Namani. At the time that the nation was passing through very difficult time over the third term agenda. And Senator Kenny Namani was able to, handle the affairs of the Senate in such a manner that today, I can tell you that the bulk of the respect that Senator Kenny Namani has today in this nation is based on his activities at that period. Now, he's sitting on a seat where the likes of Chuba Okadibo sat. Chuba Okadibo of blessed memory.
The flamboyant Chuba Okadibo.
The flamboyant Chuba Okadibo. He's sitting on a seat, the likes of Joseph Wires of blessed memory sat.
Saraki.
He's sitting on a seat, the likes of Senator Bukola Saraki sat. And so that is why people you see history, they will put them at par and look at everybody's activity. I'm afraid that even as I'm sitting down here, if I'm asked to score this gentleman who had sat on this seat, it's very unfortunate that I may not give even the first, second, third, and fifth to the current Senate president, except if there's a change between now and the end of his tenure.
Okay, I'm hoping there'll be a change, but sometimes it's difficult. Okay, one thing that happened yesterday, I don't know about today, was heavy security presence involving the police, army, and civil defense, and like they blocked the National Assembly. Wow, that deployment, is it justifiable in a democracy, or is it those in government being extra high-handed?
You know, you see, the high-handedness of political leadership has always been a feature of leadership in this part of the world. It's neither here nor there, and we must also be very realistic. That here protests can also get out of hand. Um, Leaders can be manhandled. They can be rough-handled. These are realities. We have seen it happen several times, and so many of them now build a shield around them with heavy security presence. But the most important thing is that whether the armored personnel carriers, whether the authorities roll out 1 million armored personnel carriers, you know, or whether they bring in 1 million policemen, anti-riot men to block everywhere, the biggest story is that no life was lost. We have not had stories of anybody being manhandled, and it has not diminished the essence of the protest itself. But a word of advice for our leaders, it's leadership must come to this point where they see protest by the people as a legitimate means of expressing grievances. When you know that you haven't done well, and sometimes you may even ask yourself, we cry in this country that we don't have enough security men to do the job, but each time matters of this nature comes, you begin to wonder, where did all these anti-riot men come out from? Where did all these soldiers and everybody come out from? Where did all these DSS people come out from? Just to protect, the hegemony, the political hegemony, the leadership, to ensure that, that's what Shoyinka calls a chthonic realm, a vast gulf, between them and the people, so that nobody, the people cannot cross to probably harass or to do anything to, as long as they are feeling comfortable there, they are surrounded by armed men, So, and that's what we look forward to: a people-centered leadership, a people-centered government. That's, I've tried to look at the various, available video images of our leaders in the First Republic. I have not seen anywhere you have this amount of armed, soldiers and the policemen, guiding those leaders. And why is it so? Because these were the leaders of the people.
Okay, leaders of the people. One of the rights that are enshrined in our constitution is the right for protest, right of freedom of movement, right of association. Would you critically look at blocking the National Assembly gates as a violation of the citizens' right of self-expression? One.
No, you see, that's what I'm saying. That it's very difficult to say, because there is of course is a two-sided coin. Of course, a coin can have more than two sides anyway. You have the edge. You have so. But let's look at the two big sides now. While we know that the National Assembly is a public institution, citizens should be free to go there. In fact, by the very nature of the National Assembly, that is the hallmark. That is the epitome of democracy. That is where people should go and air their grievances. In fact, if you go within the perimeter of the circumference of the National Assembly, whatever you say there, that has to be, because as the National Assembly members themselves claim the right that, once they are in the National Assembly, they have that immunity to, air their grievances.
That should be a freedom square.
Yes, that in fact that is the real freedom square.
That should be a freedom square.
But that's on one side. But again, also, we must also be alive to the reality on ground that public institutions should also be protected, because we have also seen where hoodlums take advantage of situations and inflict damages not just on individuals but in public property. So, but what happens is that these things are not balanced. We don't see them balanced, because if you see them balanced, what you may probably see is you want to protest, right? You say yes, then the security will escort you. You want to protest, and you want to submit a letter to the National Assembly to the Senate president to say yes, the security should escort you. And in fact, they can even tell you, walk on this side of the road, don't go this way. And it's now your responsibility to be law abiding. Okay. And they escort you to where you want to go to. You do what you want to do, submit your letter, say all you want to say without harassing them, without ruffling the person. And when you are done, they escort you out of the premises again. That is, they are there, their physical presence is there. Whether you say they're intimidating you or not is not the issue, but that you've done what you want to do. They didn't handle you. Now, but they're not doing that. When you now barricade and say you can't go there, you can't see them, except if the men themselves at their own whims and caprices decide to say, okay, let us go and talk to them.
Yes.
So that is no longer, that becomes high-handedness. So in which case you are now preventing a major component of democracy. That's interaction between the people. Because when it is time for election, when it is time for campaign, do you also prevent them from having interaction with the people? Because at the time they are looking for votes.
They don't. Obi believes and strongly that these legislative disputes, these electoral manipulations, are actually eroding investor confidence in Nigeria. So it makes the business environment unstable. And so even when the president is going to look for investors, and back at home, they are saying that basically as it were, that the biggest hope of the common man, which is of course the National Assembly, to make laws, that they are violating the people's rights.
Yeah, but absolutely.
How does it affect business?
Absolutely.
Business
you know, I was involved in a research. You know, in my former organization, there's a research we call BECANS, Business Environment and Competitiveness Across Nigerian States. Is a huge one, and so we look at over 120 indicators on the things that can facilitate, you know, ease of doing business. Now, locally and internationally.
Yeah.
One of the things that can boost investor confidence and guarantee investment, bring investors, both in this case international, even local investors, is the quality of governance. And governance is a compound thing. You see, whether you like it or not, people are going to look at, they will take a look at your laws, they look at your legislature. How strong is your legislature? How independent are they? Because people are going to calculate, look, if I come into this country and I invest $20 million, how stable is the economy? If I have issues, how are your laws? The laws you have in this country, are they subject to manipulation? Can the president, if tomorrow the president wakes up and wants to change a policy that will have a direct impact on it, how easy can he find it in the... One of the things that made America very strong today is because America has a very strong National Assembly. There are things that, of course, we've seen that there are many things that the president will want to do. The Senate, the national, the legislature will say no. They look at how strong and independent your judiciary is. Because when the chiefs are down, you recall that the problem that the Ogun State government had with the Chinese firm that led to the seizure of one of their presidential aircrafts. Those guys didn't approach any Nigerian courts. Has it occurred to anybody? Why didn't they approach a Nigerian court? They decided to go international. You see, these are the issues. And so when we have a National Assembly that seems to be dancing Makosa in terms of, you know, making laws that impact on the very foundation of our democracy. The future of every country in the world today is built around democracy. At least Nigeria is not a monarchical country. We don't run monarchy in this country. When Nigeria is not like Saudi Arabia. If we are Saudi Arabia, it's a different thing entirely. We run democracy. This is a party nation. So we are pluralistic in nature, plural in culture, plural in political ideology, plural in policies and social perspective. So the only thing the only thing that can glue us together is a strong democratic culture. That is the only thing that can succeed here. And that democratic culture in a multi-party system that will put into consideration, carry the aspirations of everybody along. When that is done, then we know that our policies are rooted, and people will sit back to watch what is going on. So there's no way you can talk of bringing investors in this country when they look at your National Assembly is on a matter that is as important as at this age and time. In fact, we are even embarrassing ourselves because we are, instead of us to tell Nigerians that, look, Nigeria has come a long way in terms of infrastructure, we are telling the world that there are many parts of this country today that doesn't have internet. That's what we are saying with this.
Of course, that's what we're saying. I just have two more questions for you before we call it a day. One is the law. The laws appears to be ambiguous. If you say electronic and manual,
Yes.
and if it continues that way, do you think that some people may want to boycott the elections?
No, you see, for me, the issue of ambiguity, I mean, the issue of manual and electronic, does not even there's no need for it. But I'm sure, they probably brought in there because even the National Assembly, we have had in the past where the National Assembly made the law, they probably didn't understand the import of that law they made. Remember, in the 2022 Electoral Act, many of them had, when they made that law, they didn't realize that with that law, a good number of them were not going to be returned. And by the time they realized this, they managed to quickly embark on amendment of the law again, and it was too late at that time. So let them do the one they can do now. At the harmonization point, these issues are going to come out. At the point of harmonization, because you begin to ask yourself, which one now are we going to, which one is the INEC now going to adopt? Is INEC going to rely, when you say electronic and manual? But again, also on the flip side of it, what it simply means is that the electronic must agree with the manual. And once the electronic does not agree with the manual, it's a stalemate.
Welcome back to the show, and you are still watching Political Conversations, reaching you from Freedom Square TV studios in Enugu. My guest is still in the Caledon. We try to trade what happened yesterday at National Assembly and what happened today, and the attempt by the Senate to approve what they call both electronic transmission and manual transmission, which remains for me ambiguous. But having said that, what specific role do you think that the civil society organization should play? But not only civil society organizations, but the media. Do you think they're playing enough roles? If they are not, what should be the role to ensure that this abracadabra in the National Assembly is not sustained?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that is a very important question. You know that if you have to take a cue from the tax reform, act that that was signed by the president, and how months after we began to hear that some letters and some things had been altered. That is the reason why, given the controversial nature of this particular bill now and how it's going to emerge, the job is not yet done. There is a good one. The press, that's the media, the civil society organizations, the political, the political community, the opposition, the international community, and all men of good conscience should follow suit till this particular bill is transmitted to the president. In fact, the National Assembly, the two committees of National Assembly should expedite action, because INEC has already said that they are waiting for this bill to be able to come up with, draw the timetable for the elections.
Yes.
So this is delaying them. Now we need to follow it up and ask the National Assembly to complete the job as soon as possible, and also to follow them up to when they will transmit it to the president for his own signature, and to also know that the pressure may move. This particular pressure that the national that the National Assembly is going through now may shift base to the president. If the president is delaying in, or if he tries to delay in signing this into law, and so once this is signed into law, the gazetting and the press must follow to know that exactly what the National Assembly is passed, passed into law, is exactly what the president signed, and is exactly what is going to be gazetted. So because it has come to that point where nobody is sure of anything any longer. When laws are passed by the National Assembly, well, now we know that they can be altered. Now we know even when the president has finished signing, it can be altered. Even when it has been gazetted, it can be altered. So nobody wants to be taken by surprise that maybe tomorrow somebody goes to court and he's seeing something else. The judges are reading out something else. So that is the truth. However, yeah, again, also, sometimes you wonder why should this be happening? Because this is not how. It's only in Nigeria that some of these stories.
Not only in Nigeria.
But I have not had any other country where a national assembly made a law, the president signs it into law, and by the time the implementation comes, now we begin to hear that
It's a third world country. Don't you see presidents prolonging in their stay, doing changing from one tenor to the other? It's part of
yes, exactly.
Okay, Emeka, I think this is one point where we're going to leave this conversation. I just want to thank you for a very incisive contribution and discussion on this. And we do hope that sometime next week you oblige us with your presence.
Certainly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And for our viewers, do have a lovely day ahead of you. Welcome back to the show, and you are still watching Political Conversations, reaching you from Freedom Square TV studios in Enugu. My guest is still in the Caledon. We try to trade what happened yesterday at National Assembly and what happened today, and the attempt by the Senate to approve what they call both electronic transmission and manual transmission, which remains for me ambiguous. But having said that, what specific role do you think that civil society organizations should play? But not only civil society organizations, but the media. Do you think they're playing enough roles? If they are not, what should be the specific role to ensure that this abracadabra in the National Assembly is not sustained?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that is a very important question. You know that if you have to take a cue from the tax reform, act that that was signed by the president, and how months after we began to hear that some letters and some things had been altered. That is the reason why, given the controversial nature of this particular bill now and how it's going to emerge, the job is not yet done. But it's a good one. The press, that's the media, the civil society organizations, the political, the political community, the opposition, the international community, and all men of good conscience should follow suit till this particular bill is transmitted to the president. In fact, the National Assembly, the two committees of National Assembly should expedite action, because INEC has already said that they are waiting for this bill to be able to draw the timetable for the elections.
Yes.
So this is delaying them. Now we need to follow it up and ask the National Assembly to complete the job as soon as possible, and also to follow them up to when they will transmit it to the president for his own signature, and to also know that the pressure may move. This particular pressure that the national heat that the National Assembly is going through now may shift base to the president if the president is delaying in, or if he tries to delay in signing this into law. And so once this is signed into law, the gazetting and the press must follow to know that exactly what the National Assembly is passed into law is exactly what the president signed, and is exactly what is going to be gazetted. So because it has come to that point where nobody is sure of anything any longer. When laws are passed by the National Assembly, well, now we know that they can be altered. Now we know even when the president has finished signing, it can be altered. Even when it has been gazetted, it can be altered. So nobody wants to be taken by surprise that maybe tomorrow somebody goes to court and he's seeing something else. The judges are reading out something else. So that is the truth. However, again, also, sometimes we wonder why should this be happening? Because this is not how. It's only sometimes it's only in Nigeria that some of these stories.
Not only in Nigeria.
But I have not had any other country where a national assembly made a law, the president signs it into law, and by the time the implementation comes, now we begin to hear that
It's a third world country. Don't you see presidents prolonging their stay, doing changing from one tenor to the other? It's part of
where that yes, exactly.
Okay, Emeka, I think this is one point where we're going to leave this conversation. I just want to thank you for a very incisive contribution and discussion on this. And we do hope that sometime next week you oblige us with your presence.
Certainly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And for our viewers, do have a lovely day ahead of you. What specific role do you think that the civil society organizations should play? In fact, not only civil society organizations, but the media. Do you think they're playing enough roles? If they are not, what should be the specific role to ensure that this abracadabra in the National Assembly is not sustained?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that is a very important question. You know that if you have to take a cue from the tax reform, acts that that was signed by the president, and how months after we began to hear that some letters and some things had been altered. That is the reason why, given the controversial nature of this particular bill now and how it's going to emerge, the job is not yet done. There is a good one. The press, that's the media, the civil society organizations, the political, the political community, the opposition, the international community, and all men of good conscience should follow suit till this particular bill is transmitted to the president. In fact, the National Assembly, the two committees of National Assembly should expedite action, because INEC has already said that they are waiting for this bill to be able to draw the timetable for the elections.
Yes.
So this is delaying them. Now we need to follow it up and ask the National Assembly to complete the job as soon as possible, and also to follow them up to when they will transmit it to the president for his own signature, and to also know that the pressure may move. This particular pressure that the national heat that the National Assembly is going through now may shift base to the president if the president is delaying in, or if he tries to delay in signing this into law. And so once this is signed into law, the gazetting and the press must follow to know that exactly what the National Assembly is passed into law is exactly what the president signed, and is exactly what is going to be gazetted. So because it has come to that point where nobody is sure of anything any longer. When laws are passed by the National Assembly, now we know that they can be altered. Now we know even when the president has finished signing, it can be altered. Even when it has been gazetted, it can be altered. So nobody wants to be taken by surprise that maybe tomorrow somebody goes to court and he's seeing something else. The judges are reading out something else. So that is the truth. However, again, also, sometimes we wonder, why should this be happening? Because this is not how. It's only in Nigeria that some of these stories.
Not only in Nigeria.
But I have not had any other country where a National Assembly made a law, the president signs it into law, and by the time the implementation comes, now we begin to hear that.
It's a third world country. Don't you see presidents prolonging their stay, doing changing from one tenor to the other? It's part of
yes, exactly.
Okay, Emeka, I think this is one point where we're going to leave this conversation. I just want to thank you for a very incisive contribution and discussion on this. And we do hope that sometime next week you oblige us with your presence.
Certainly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And for our viewers, do have a lovely day ahead of you.